Hello and welcome to the Basketball Addicts podcast. Today we will be going over a really good one today. This is me part 2. You guys heard part 1 last week, so this is me part 2 of the series. This series is basically about coaches, man. We're breaking down the team talent of what they were last year, comparing it to the coaching talent. And then explaining, maybe the XYZ team could have done better with a better coaching talent. You know what I mean? We're going to really give you guys a breakdown because a lot of times people only judge a coach by wins and losses, but that's usually not reflective of what he's actually doing. So, yeah, that's going to be a fun one today. So, Chris, are you ready to start talking about this? You have anything to say before we start getting into this?
Let's get to it. Let's get to it.
Okay. Well, the first one is somebody that's going to be really fun to talk about. We're going to talk about the Miami Heat first. It's the first team on the list. So we got offense. We got 95 talent wise. Their offense last year. I mean, we got Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler. You got Gabe Vincent. Good. Dear goodness, they had a lot of good guards. Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus
Yeah,
shooting.
Caleb
They're
Martin.
Caleb Martin showed up big too. And defensive talent wise, I'd give them a solid 96.
Fair.
Defensive talents for the Miami Heat, 96.
Yes.
Not quite as good as the year before because the year before they did have PJ Tucker, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't quite have that double forward combo. It was more Kevin Love and
Mm-hmm.
that stretch forward that they used this year, which led to them winning games. But still got Jimmy Butler, still got Bam Adebayo. Gabe Vincent's really great. You know what I mean? So this team still had a lot of defensive talent on it. And Eric Spoelstra, man, head coaching talent wise last year, I gave him 100 offense, 100 defense. I mean, this guy's
Without a
phenomenal.
doubt.
This
Yes.
guy, best coach in the NBA. I think we both agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, even putting him on a 100 scale isn't fair. Like maybe 105 defense, 105 offense. He's just special. This guy is a great X and O matchup guy,
Yes.
extremely intelligent, always giving you different looks, understands what your weaknesses are, attacks them viciously, uses Jimmy Butler so well, gets the most of his passing ability, really developed. Jimmy Butler's passing ability does not get enough attention. That man can walk his way into 8 assists. It's just so
Mm-hmm.
special. He's really
Yeah.
grown so much more into that aspect. He's a playmaker now. He uses Bam Adebayo perfectly. I can't think of another team that could get the most out of Bam offensively like Miami gets the most out of Bam. But Bam gives you 19, 18 a game
Yeah.
extremely consistently. And they really, they understand the weaknesses and they play to their strengths, which is the off-ball guard movement. Duncan Robinson off-ball screens, Tyler Hero off-ball screens, Max Strus off-ball screens. Those guys, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, doesn't really have more game than that, but defenses have to still think about stopping those off-ball screens because they're still a threat. Right, they're special at it. They understand how to use playmakers. They have so many playmakers last year. They used Gabe Vincent so well. Development of young talent into talent that can play in the NBA championship. This guy's phenomenal. And defensively, I mean, dear goodness, he's an X and O's genius. Matchups, he'll take people's souls away. I mean, they made the Boston Celtics look super simple. They dissected the Boston Celtics defensively this year. In the playoffs, it was insane to watch. They're special. They understand matchups. They understand how to break down teams. They were one of the first teams to build the wall against Giannis. So you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and that's special. This is just Spoelstra. So let's hear what you got to say about Spo.
Spo is without a doubt the best coach in the NBA, in my opinion.
Yeah,
He's been consistently, a great coach, and it's so
yeah,
crazy that it's like for even with how much talent you think is not available on that team. Like he
yeah.
takes those guys that you may that's like who has a chip on their shoulders because that's who Miami
Mm-hmm.
drafts for some reason. They all the role players are like either undrafted or late first round, maybe
Yeah.
the last person drafted in the draft. Like and they
Yep.
take those kind of players and they mold them into superstars. They mold them
Yeah.
into stars, and that has nothing to that just has so much to do with the coaching and with the type of environment that has been created there by Spo and by the front office and things like that. So, but let's get into offense though. So offensively, Spo is 100 without a doubt, 105, maybe
Yeah.
110, because
Yeah.
you are making the most. out of everything, I mean, for you to have
Yeah.
Duncan Robinson who can't defend, Tyler
True.
Hero who can't defend,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Max Struz, who can defend a little bit, but like these are like
Yeah. He's pretty
really
decent.
key
Yeah.
shooters, key scorers in their offense
Yeah.
that he really takes and maximizes their potential. I mean, like we've seen
Yes.
a little bit of what Tyler Hero was able to do when he was at, I think it was Duke. No, it wasn't Duke. What was the college he went to?
Kentucky.
Kentucky, when he was at Kentucky, but I didn't think that he was going to prove that he was going to pull this. Like he was going to become this in
Mm.
the league. He was going to become so valuable to a team. Duncan Robinson was undrafted. Who thought that he would become so valuable to a team through his shooting? Like he's like up there when it comes to catch and shoot threes. He's up there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like when you have Max Strus, so they just got, and it's just like it just kind of completes the puzzle,
Yeah.
like offensively with their triangle of shooting, and then you add Jimmy Butler. Jimmy, what is good? What is Jimmy Butler good at?
Defense and scoring and passing. He's everything.
Everything. But his
Yeah.
main thing is that he is a mid-range shot creator. He lives
Bucket.
and dies with the mid-range. He's like DeMar DeRozan, but better. It's just he's
True.
like lives and dies
Yeah.
with the mid-range. And for a coach to recognize that off the top and like don't put him in positions where he has to take the shot that he's not
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with, where he always
Yeah.
has that shot that he's comfortable with. Like, and it's always the shot he's comfortable with. It could be leaning from the side, fade away, mid range. It's all mid range. He's not shot creating from the three. He's moving inside. He's going to catch the ball on the inside. That's coaching. That's great coaching offensively. Defensively, Miami has always been a defensive monster, especially since they got Jimmy Butler. And
Mm-hmm.
so and Bam Adebayo, and since they got Jimmy and drafted Bam, I mean they've been a defensive monster. I would say that they are not as great as they have been in the past, but that does not take away from the greatness that they do have defensively that has been cultivated by Coach Spo. So
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree wholeheartedly. Spo is the best coach in the NBA, and I think that Curry is a close second.
Yeah. I agree, man. You ready to kick it to the next team?
Let's go.
All right, the next team is somebody that we're not going to talk about much since they have a new head coach that has no resumes. Milwaukee Bucks. Last year, team talent-wise, they give them 100 offensively and 100 defensively. It's not that complicated. Giannis, Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, Drew Holiday, Javon Carter, Jay Crowder, Joe Ingles,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was just Grayson Allen, so
Bobby
deep,
Portis.
so deep.
Yeah.
Bobby Portis, don't, yeah, good. That was a good one. Yeah, offensively, defensively, they're so talented. Adrian Griffin doesn't get a rating because never coached before. So sadly, we can't really talk about that. So there will be probably a talking point next year because we both think the Milwaukee Bucks probably won't be the same quite team. So, are you
Mm-hmm.
ready to kick it to the next team, or you got anything to say about the Bucks before we move forward?
No, because we don't know about Adrian Griffin. So I mean,
Yeah,
we could talk about Bud if you want to, but I think Bud's great.
yeah, me too. All right, you ready to kick it to the next team then?
Yeah,
All right. The next team up is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Offensive talent, give them an 87. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo
fair.
Russell, Anthony Edwards. You know what I mean? That team's got talent. Not D'Lo all the way through the year, but Mike Conley, I meant to say.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then defensively, we got Rudy Gobert. They got some length like Jaden McDaniels. Tashawn Prince was on that team last year. So they had some length. They had some length in Rudy. So Rudy makes them a respectable to a certain amount. And head coach Chris Finch gets a 73 offensively and a 70 defensively. Um, Chris Finch, he gets a 73 offensively because that man, since he's been there, has not figured out how to use Karl Anthony Towns. We have, I mean, that guy, Karl Anthony Towns, even when Anthony Edwards was like first year in the NBA, wasn't getting the most touches a game, wasn't getting the most field goal attempts in a game, which is freaking wild. It just looks like he lets Cat just play. It's Cat's talent that's scoring. It's not like, okay, we have him in the mid range, in the mid post, in the post, and we have this movement offense going around him so that, there's cutters and the defender can't just double, right? And the defender may have to think about more than just Cat scoring, right? There's just nothing going on. It's a ridiculously stagnant offense. There's no off ball movement whatsoever. It's so predicated on pick and rolls, guards trying to score, and just it's high school level stuff. Like, oh wow, you run a pick and roll so advanced. Can't believe you do that. Like every other team runs a pick and roll. What else are you gonna do? And it's just A great coach would have been able to figure out how to use Cat with Rudy. Look, there is 50 years. Nope. Let me go here. 60 years of evidence of how to do this. From the 1940s to the year 2000, everybody had a power forward that was 6'9, 6'10, 6'11, 7 foot paired with a tall center, right? So there's 60 years of tape that Chris Finch could have gone into to find something that could have worked. I mean, we've been using the post power forward for years. Elvin Hayes, Calvin McHale, Carl Malone, Charles Barkley, Tim Duncan, and David Robinson. Like, there's a gazillion of these guys, right? So it's not that crazy to think like, okay, all that tape and he just had Cat sitting at the 3 point line. Cat was just standing at the 3 point line. What are we doing? Right? It's just a terrible use. It's just so bad offensively, and defensively he just doesn't do anything unique. I feel like there's a lot of potential this year to have Cat and Rudy be, if you're going to force everything to the rim, it could have been interesting. Cat may not be a world class defender, but he tries, and it could have been like twin towers ish, like kind of like Giannis and Brooke Lopez. Like there could have been potential there to be really long and lanky, and we're going to give teams issues, but it was just kind of like Rudy's going to stand at the center position and Cat's going to be at the 3 point line because somebody's going to space him out, and we're not going to figure out any unique ways. Like maybe you want to throw in a zone. Maybe you want to throw in some unique zones, or maybe a 3-2 zone, like when you have 3 people on the perimeter, 2 people on side, so that you wouldn't have to, they wouldn't be able to space Cat out to the 3 point line. Like there's nothing creative to make this work. Chris Finch is just not an advanced defensive guy. He doesn't understand X and O's. He doesn't understand team leadership. He doesn't understand winning basketball. This team will always underperform, and yeah, it's a Carl Anthony Towns misuse from a million miles away. I mean, if this team would be in San Antonio, Pop would had a 50-win team last year.
Yeah.
Easy, 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 because Pap knows how to coach this type of team, but he
Yeah.
doesn't. So it is what it is. That's what I'm thinking. What are you thinking, Chris?
Oh my God. If you want to go a little further, Jay, you can even say that there is 73 years worth of history.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. 83 years worth of history.
yeah,
It gets worse.
yeah.
83 years worth of history that teaches you how to use the power forward correctly. If you want to
Yes,
use Cat as a old school big guy where he's just going to just
yes.
turn around, fade away, kind of a Hakeem Olajuwon kind of guy because he got the footwork, you know what I mean, and he can shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you want to make him kind of like a Joel Embiid, where he kind of more so like he can
Yeah,
go back down to the basket, kind of dunk on people, he can be that as well. And even if you wanted to make him a stretch forward, there's history that teaches you how to do that. That you can
Dirk.
combine those
Yeah,
two. You can combine the era of the old school big man and the era
yeah.
of the new big man into Cat because he can do both. The
Yes,
offense side of things, and that's where I agree with you the most. Everything that you said, I agree with. Right? Which there's not
yeah.
much we don't agree with that. But
True.
here, particularly with Cat, it shouldn't have taken this long, and it's like they're literally the fact that he's still like, I understand that Cat is one of the best, if not the best, big man shooter in the NBA right now. I get it.
Yes.
He's yes, without a doubt, he has the best percentages. Like literally, I understand that, but that don't mean set him off in the corner. Like
Yeah.
what I want to know what the offensive scheme that he's trying to run through, because you
Yeah.
have so many small guys, right? And then
Yeah.
like you can't put Cat anywhere. Rudy clogs the lane, so you can't do anything. So Cat is forced to the outside. Where
Yeah.
if you could figure out some kind of way to kind of make it work where Rudy's there in the post, you know what I mean? And Cat's kind of
Yeah.
like maybe free throw line extended or something like that, where he maybe can work around in the mid range. You can make that work. And you don't have to clog the lane so much. You set shooters around. I mean, we've done this. If there's a
Yeah.
podcast out there right now where we've built a team around Cat successfully,
True. With Popovich as the coach.
with Pop as the coach,
Yep.
and we've done this. So
Yeah.
it's not hard. It's just
Yeah.
whether or not you're able to do it, and you know what I mean. And this
Yeah.
guy just clearly can't do it. How long has he been a
No.
coach there? Too long to
I
not
might be
have done
three
this already.
years. I think it
That's
might be
that's
three.
too long. That's too long
Yeah.
to be running the same offensive sets. You
Yeah.
got lucky one year and won the play in. Had Pat Bev crying like he won the championship. One year you got lucky and you have not shown
Yeah.
anything else. Why has Minnesota not fired you? Put
They need to
somebody else
fire
in
the GM
place.
too. Yeah.
The GM needs to go too as well
Yeah.
because he's terrible at drafting. I mean, Anthony Edwards was a slam dunk. Cat was a slam dunk. Wiggins was a slam dunk. Levine was a slam dunk. But you don't have any of those people anymore. All you have is Ant
Yeah.
and Cat left.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
lost. You don't have Levine. You don't have Wiggins. You had Jimmy
Yeah.
Butler. You don't have him
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
It's
It's wild.
defensively he's a moron because how do you not use the gifts that you have and the talent you have defensively? You have Rudy
Yeah.
Gobert, who was what 2 or 3 time defensive player of the year, like
True.
something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Even though it was in Utah and they used it where they pushed everything toward him and it kind of was like he didn't have no
Yeah.
choice but get a block. But still, if you look, that's history there that you could look at and be like, oh, this is how we can use
Yeah.
Rudy Gobert. And then maybe
Yeah.
if I look at the San Antonio Spurs from the '90s when they had the Twin Towers there, they had Duncan
Yeah.
and the Admiral. Maybe you can see how to work with two big men.
A perfect example is Tyson Chandler with Dirk.
Yes. Oh yeah, when they won the ring, wasn't that
Yes.
2011? That was when they
That
won the
is when they
ring.
won the ring. Yeah. Tyson Chandler couldn't post. Tyson Chandler only lob guy, but he won DPOI.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal rim defender.
That's what you have in Rudy. It's the same. More history to look
Cat
back
and
at.
Derek are not that different. Like Dirk may be better, but
Mhm.
Cat's that kind of guy, right? Yeah.
Both great 3-point shooters. Both kind of can float
They
within the
got a
mid range and
mid-range
knock
game,
down
yeah.
shots.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like
It's wild.
Dirk isn't a dunker, but I mean,
Yeah. Neither is Cat.
neither is Cat. But he can do it
Yeah.
sometimes. You know what I mean? He can float within the inside and get a nice post move. He has good post moves. I mean, more history to look at that's been ignored, and that's why he's not a good coach.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so glad we can be in agreement here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you ready to move to the next one?
That's right.
All right, this is going to be some seriously controversial opinions. All right, the New Orleans Pelicans last year gave their team talent a 96. I mean, is Zion healthy? Obviously, Zion, Brandon Ingram, C.J. McCollum, Trey Murphy the third, Herb Jones, Jonas Valanciunas. You know, this team's really deep. And then we got defensively, got Zion. You know, we got Jose Alvarado, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy the third. Um, teams really they got Dyson Daniels too, who's a younger guy, but he's also a really good defender.
Yeah.
And Willie Green offensively, I gave him a 75, and defensively, I gave him a 75. Willie Green is a perfect example of a coach that is propped up by great talent, and people assume that he is a great coach because of that. It's just this guy doesn't really bring any edges. I mean, he uses Zion the way that anyone would use him. Zion just plays free, right? He's just a playmaker. He plays. He has the ball in his hands. Nothing unique's happening there. And it's a basic NBA offense. It's we have a guy that gets to the rim and we got shooters, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
very well built, right? David Griffin's done a really good job there. It's tons of length. It's tons of shooting. We got C.J. McCollum. David Griffin got right? Highly experienced guy, high volume, ball handler role. And we got Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram just plays like Brandon Ingram. And there's nothing special going on. There's no wow. They won't wow you with movement. They don't make you go, wow, there's just schemes are so great. The way he attacks matchups are so great. Like you never said that once about Willie Green. It's just a very normal pick and roll heavy offense that's just not special. There's nothing unique going on here. There's just great talent offensively and defensively. It's the same freaking thing. They got freaks everywhere other than CJ McCollum. Okay? Trey Murphy the third is 6'8" with a 6'11" wingspan that moves. Oh, nope, it did not. We're good. Okay. Okay, so yeah,
Murphy the third moves around like it's nothing. It's super easy for him. And then we got Herb Jones. Herb Jones is a world class defensive talent. 6'8", freaky as well. Zion Williamson. Have you seen that guy play defense? He covers so much ground. He's a shot blocking threat wherever he is. He's basically like a secondary shot blocker. The Jonas Valanciunas may not be a great defender, but when you got freaks at the forward position and you have Zion, it's not hard to have a good defense. You got Jose Alvarado, guard defender off the bench, like Dyson Daniels, who can also guard. He's like 6'6". Like, this team's freaky, long, lanky, athletic, and that's all they are. They're known for being freaky, long, athletic. There's nothing else that you think about the Pelicans. Oh, they break down matchups. Oh, in the playoffs they do X, Y, Z. No, it's just talent that's brought them this far. So, Willie Green's just an average NBA coach. Just completely average, maybe even below average. Like the 20th best head coach in the league. So what do you think about that, Chris?
Couldn't agree more. He's definitely propped up by talent. Like, you have Zion, I mean, when he plays, you know what I mean? But then you also have Brandon Ingram, and I think that he's more of he's like a pure scorer. He's an assassin. You know what I mean? You kind of that's the kind of guy you put the ball in his hands. He just kind of gets you buckets. You know what I mean? And of course, you have CJ McCollum, and he just what he's going to bring. You know what I mean? Offensively, you know exactly what he's going to bring. So it's kind of just he was just gifted a lot of good talent that he doesn't really feel like he doesn't create anything with that talent, though. That's the biggest problem. And I think that's what you were touching on there, was that there's nothing that you go, ooh, wow, like the Spurs, like they had talent, but then they was like great at ball movement at one point. You know, that was like, wow, like this is coaching here. Or the Celtics of old with Ime Udoka. I mean, like, even though they're the same team now, but like he was like, wow, Jason Tatum defends now. Like, that's cool. That's the coaching. There's nothing that I could point to and go, the coach did that. That's like literally all natural talent. Like, they kind of just play pickup out there, and everybody just gets points when they want and defends when they want. It's like essentially that's what it is. They all just play 21. They play 21 on the big screen in front of millions of I'll say tens of thousands of viewers. It's probably not millions. I don't think nobody's watching New Orleans Pelicans basketball much. But no offense, I don't think nobody's watching. Tens of thousands of people, possibly. And you're just playing pickup. You're playing pickup basketball. They go out there and we go dribble, pass. Okay, so next open shot, I'll take it. That's it. It's nothing special. At least when they had Lonzo, it looked better.
Yeah.
It looked cleaner, but that was just it doesn't. It's not given.
Yeah. Already? You ready to kick it to the next team?
Yeah.
This is going to be a fun one to talk about. The New York Knicks, team talent-wise, give them 93 offensively last year. I mean, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes. I think Evan Fournier might still be on that team off the bench. Yeah, and then we got defensively. Gave him 87 talent-wise. I mean, Julius Randle really isn't that good of a defender. Jalen Brunson's an average guy, but he's smaller, right? R.J. Barrett's not that great. Mitchell Robinson's a pretty solid defender, though. They had Josh Hart, right? So I would give Tom Thibodeau, head coach of the New York Knicks, offensively an 81 and defensively a 96. Tom Thibodeau, 81 offensively, though. Let's take this with a grain of salt, because Tom Thibodeau used to be like 60s, 70s offensively. He has come a long way. They definitely run a lot more pick and rolls. They used to be really pass heavy, not pass heavy, but the ball would move, but nothing would be accomplished. It just felt like it was a very rustic offense with nothing really unique about it for a while. And the way they used Jalen Brunson, R.J. Barrett, and Julius Randle all at the same time, the more volume threes, the more unique, more recent schemes that they've been running and using off-ball stuff, and there's movement, and it was definitely growth from Tom Thibodeau offensively. It's a pretty average, above average offensive coach now. And, defensively, though, he gets a 96 because that team played much better defensively than the talent that was on the floor. Okay, let's not act like that's not what happened last year because they were respectable in the playoffs, and they were playing at the team talent like a defensively at like a 91, but the team talent was an 86, and that was because of Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau is a great X and O's guys. He's always been like this. He's always been really great defensively. He understands matchups. He understands how to teach defense. Everybody always tries, puts 100% effort. They communicate so well. They might not have a lot of great talent other than Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson, but they did it with phenomenal coaching from Tom Thibodeau. So he gets a ton of respect from me defensively. He grew a lot offensively this year. It gets a lot of respect from me that way too. So that's what I'm thinking about the Knicks. What are you thinking, Chris?
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that as well. Because I think that the biggest tale of him growing offensively is how he seamlessly integrated Jalen Brunson.
Sure.
Like it
Yeah.
just seemed like he just always just fit on that team. Like Jalen
Yeah.
Brunson is like one of those high volume scorers who
Mm-hmm.
can like go get you a bucket and things like that. And
Yeah.
then you kind of just you figure out a way to integrate him easily, and then you
Mm-hmm.
figure out a way to make RJ Barrett work because you sliding
Yeah.
RJ Barrett sort of kind of out of position now because normally
Yeah.
he's kind of a ball handler, kind of that kind of guy because he has a pretty decent IQ as far as that, as
Yeah.
far as playmaking. So you kind of just move him out of the you kind of moved him out of his normal position, but then you still make that work because I think they
Yeah.
moved into the three this year. I think
Yeah. And it
they moved into
really
the
worked.
three,
And it
moving to
really
the
worked.
three, and it really worked.
Yeah.
It really, really, really worked. And they went pretty far. I mean,
Yeah.
I have some qualms about that because they beat my Cavs. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
But the beat
So
was
it's
fair and square.
they did beat us very square. And
Yeah.
then you have like I mean, and then they've turned into such a young, deep team. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy, and that's coaching because I think it's
Yeah.
quickly right. And I just remember watching the game. Which is a quick tidbit. Watching the game, and
Yeah.
he's just running down the court, killing us back and
Yeah.
forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, that is
Yeah.
coaching. It's definitely coaching. But definitely to
Yeah.
be able to maximize the talent, that's one of the key things of a coach that I like to
Yeah.
see, and I see Tibbs being able to do that, especially because he has grown offensively. I mean, once again, integrating Jalen Brunson, making the
Yeah.
correct adjustments to make RJ Barrett still as effective, if not more effective than he has been in the past.
Yeah.
Um, and then also Julius Randle. I mean, Julius Randle has always been a pretty solid guy, but I think under Tibbs he's grown a lot more
Yes.
offensively. So
Yes.
that's really
Yes.
good. And defensively, I mean, he's great. He's great. What else can you
Yeah.
say? I mean, to
True.
have everybody
Yeah.
buy into playing defense and to playing
Mm-hmm.
defense hard and to giving 110% on the
Yes.
defensive side of the ball, because a lot of those guys, especially like Jalen Brunson, you would expect him to just be a one-sided player and not a two-way player. I mean, a one-way player.
Yeah.
You would expect him to just I'm gonna put all my effort on the scoring side, but I'm gonna kind
Mm-hmm.
of be lackadaisical. But you even see him giving effort on the defensive side as well,
Yeah.
and that's nothing but a testament to Tibbs coaching
Yeah.
defensively. So definitely give
Yeah.
him props for that. So I agree.
Yeah, and a perfect example of this is no year in Tim Thibodeau's career would Emmanuel Quickly be what Emmanuel Quickly was this year, right? He gave you 16 a game, was in like six man of the year conversation. If you haven't
Yeah,
watched Emmanuel Quickly, he takes a lot of deep 3-point shots. He's a high volume, really ridiculously tough shot creator, and Tom Thibodeau's viewpoint of what was a good shot and what was a bad shot wouldn't have allowed Emmanuel Quickly to get those attempts up. But his offensive growth is a good example of his ability to allow Emmanuel Quickly to have that freedom that he had last year that led to a great 6 minute success. So it's another really good example of his growth is the way he accepted Emmanuel Quickly's play style. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, you ready to kick it to the next team, or you have anything else to say?
Let's hit it.
Okay. The next team up is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Offensive talent wise, to give them an 88. Defensive talent wise is a 72. Most people have no clue who Oklahoma City's head coach is, so I'll say his full name. Mark Diagnolu. It's a tough name. Daigneault. You try to say that. See how it sounds. Um, offensively, I give him an 88. Defensively, I give him a 74. Offensively, he gets an 88 because have you watched the way? I mean, they got so many ball handlers and passers. What's so tough about it is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, when he was with CP3 and before they got Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams, was a 6 to 7 assist game guy. Where we're like, man, Josh Giddey can score, but his his best ability is like passing. Like, wow, he's such a good passer, right? So we're thinking Josh Giddey's going to be a passer who can score. Now he's a scorer who could pass, right? But
Yeah.
you got to give that head coach a ton of credit for getting Shea Gilgeous-Alexander where he is now. But what's really phenomenal about it is Jalen Williams. When he came out of the draft, I was like, man, that's the best passing two guard in the draft by far. He was that in the NBA. Like, he had a great year. He was the best version of Jalen Williams that could have been this year. High volume passing, high volume ball handling, and to get all of that work with Josh Giddey, who's a phenomenal passer, basketball IQ guy, all working in the same offense at one time and also getting the most out of them development wise is extremely impressive. That was like, wow, okay, this guy's really good. Because all those passers to work at once and ball handlers to work at once is way harder than it sounds. Okay, so he gets a ton of credit for that for me personally, man. Defensively, he gets a 74 because they do try on defense. It's not like doing anything unique. But you know, this guy is really good coaching wise. So, what do you think, Chris?
Yeah, yeah. To see what to see Shay Giddy and to work really well together, especially because
Yeah,
I was seeing the coming out party of Shay. I think we talked about
yeah,
this not last year, but the year before,
great
where he
year.
was like he had a
Yeah,
great year, a
yeah,
great year where he was just like killing it. I
yeah,
mean, he was playing phenomenally well. I think, and then when we saw Josh Giddy, I think we were like thinking that okay, he's gonna be more of a passer kind of guy. Like he's gonna be like the primary ball handler. We're gonna see him
yeah,
like kind of just passing, kind of getting people involved. But now he's turned into this guy who's like also a threat scoring wise as well. And that's
yeah,
like, and that's just now you have so many weapons to use, and to be able
yeah.
to have these guys so young and they're developing and they're getting better and better every year.
Yes,
And now OKC is being looked at like, wow, OKC might actually be a threat coming in the next couple years because
sure. Chet,
everybody sees Shea, sees Giddy, and sees the young talent they have, and they
yeah.
go, I don't
Add
think I
Chet
want to
to it. It's
take.
interesting. Yeah,
It is. And I'm like, I don't think I would
yeah,
have played them. But he's like, I wouldn't want to either because they just gonna kill you. They have so
yeah,
many different ways to kill you. I mean, I'm sorry, to dismantle you. I put it that way. Dismantle you.
yeah,
Passing wise and scoring wise, they can dismantle you like crazy. Because they all
yeah.
just have very high IQs, and that's one thing that can't truly be taught, but it can be cultivated. And I believe the coach did a very good job in
True.
doing that.
Yeah,
So and defensively, like you said, I don't, it's nothing too special it's nothing to wink an eye at, to bat
yeah,
eyelash at either. It's just, it's a defense and it works. It's a functional defense. So it definitely,
yeah.
I can see a 75 there.
Okay, sounds good. Ready to kick it to the next team?
Let's run it.
All right, from one young developing team to another, we're going to talk about the Orlando Magic. Team talent wise, last year I gave them a 77. Got Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner, the guards, Wendell Carter Jr. And defensively, I gave him a 69. And Jamal Mosley, offensively, I gave him 87. Defensively, I gave him 84. I mean, this guy does a phenomenal job. I've been talking about how good Jamal Mosley is for years. This guy is a great young head coach. He's so good at using schemes and using different ways to get players open. He's so good at using, even Marco Foles and Cole Anthony to get in the pick and rolls, and the way that he year one got Pablo Banchero to grow more as a playmaker, 6'10" guy, and the spacing that they had on the floor, and to also still allow Franz Wagner to be at point forward while playing with Pablo Banchero was extremely impressive. And then you add Wendell Carter Jr. to all of that, scoring wise and three and spacing and all the stuff Wendell Carter Jr. does. It was extremely impressive to watch. And then, so that's why he gets an 87 offensively. And then we're going to go to defensively 84. This guy gets them to play really good defense. They'll throw in some zones, they'll throw in some different looks. They play very competitively. You know what I mean? Jalen Suggs has been the best version of himself defensively. When they had Mo Bamba, they used his talent extremely well, forced things to the rim. He was almost leading the league in blocks when they were playing with him. So he's very good. This is a very, very good young coach for the Orlando Magic, Chris.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. I love how, just the young talent that he had there, especially with Paulo Banchero, Jalen Suggs, Wendell Carter. I just like what he was able to do. I think they even had Bull at one point too, or they still,
Yeah,
yeah, because I don't
they
think they
cut
have him
him.
anymore. They cut him, yeah,
Yeah,
but still, like we were seeing different levels, different offenses, different schemes, offensive schemes, and different players like really shining so much,
yeah,
especially with Paolo. I think Cole Anthony was on that team too. Like they have
yeah,
a lot of young talent, and he always has been. And since he has came into the league and started with the Orlando Magic, he has been able to maximize the potential
yeah,
of every player, especially like I mean, like Paolo Banchero wasn't truly raw. You know what I mean? He was a number one pick, so
no
he had to have some kind of like he had to be have some kind of what's the
talent,
maybe talent.
advanced
There you
talent.
go.
Yeah,
Advanced
NBA
talent
ready
is better.
talent. Let's call that.
NBA ready. That's a better word. That's a better phrase. NBA ready talent. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like he was extremely raw, but still to be able to coach that that caliber of player and get him
Yeah,
to what you had him as last year, and then you have a player like Bol who was like who sat on the bench for majority of his
yeah,
rookie season, and even
yeah.
before, after that, and to have him come in, and now you look at it, everybody's looking at Bol like, wow, where did this guy come from?
Mm,
And just to have so I think offensively, I think what he's been able to do offensively with the talent that he had is fantastic, and I hope that they continue to grow defensively as well. I mean, like you have these defenders on there, you have guys who are willing to buy into the system and defend well, so I think he's great.
yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Alrighty, you ready to kick
Mm,
it to the next team?
let's go.
Next team up is the Philadelphia 76ers. Team talent wise, gave them a
Interesting.
96 last year. Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, Joel Embiid. Not a lot of great depth behind it. Shake Milton, you know what I mean? Not
Mm,
a lot of depth there. But defensively, I gave them the 89 last year. You know, Peter Tucker, Joel Embiid, really special guys defensively. But James Harden's so terrible defensively. Old James Harden, yeah, that guy can't defend it to save his life. Okay,
yeah.
so then coach wise, Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse is the new head coach of the 76ers. Offensively, I gave him a 97. Defensively, I gave him a 98. This guy's been, oddly underrated after winning a ring. Uh, Basically, the Toronto Raptors are a team that people view as a team that should be better than what they were, and that's why they fired Nick Nurse. Well, it's not his fault that he had to put Scotty Barnes, who can't shoot mid-range jumpers reliably, with Pascal Siakam at the same time, right? Like that just didn't fit because spacing is so important in the modern NBA, and it just did not work with those two together at the same time. And he's got forced to have to coach Jakob Pertl, but that guy got the most out of that team for so long. Let's give that man credit for turning Fred Van Fleet from undrafted to Fred Van Fleet, right? Okay, let's give him some credit for getting
Yeah.
second round draft pick Pascal Siakam to go from nobody knows who Pascal is to he's on an NBA championship team. He's a very good player now, right? And then we go into the next year and Pascal's 20 and whatever. Then the year last year, Pascal was averaging like 25, 10, 25,
Yeah.
8 and being a phenomenal defender. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Like let's give him his props. OG Anunoby went from bench player to OG Anunoby. Every GM wants him. OG Anunoby, right?
Mm,
Like this guy has been maximizing talent for years, and nobody cares. I'm just
yeah.
like, what in the world are we talking about? He's a great scheme guy. He understands matchups. He gets his team to play phenomenal defense. He understands ball movement, passing. They have belief in 3-point shooting. This guy is phenomenal and gets no credit for it, and it's just amazing to watch. Yeah.
That's like the best I've heard somebody speak about Nick Nurse in a while. Because it's true though. He really has
Yeah.
won a ring and then has continuously been disrespected since.
Yes. Yep.
To be able to maximize the way that he has, I mean Pascal Siakam, for one, I'm gonna go there, like a guy who
Yes.
was like second round pick. Nobody really wanted him
Couldn't
when he
really
came out.
handle coming in the league.
Couldn't do anything that well, and now look at him, 25, and
Yes.
he was dropping like he had like 30-point games last year and
Yes.
stuff like that. Like literally was he should have been. moving into being the face of the franchise, but they didn't want to do that. Why?
I
I
don't even
don't
think he made
understand.
the
Because he
All
was.
Star team.
That's what I'm saying. Snub after snub after snub.
Yeah.
Then you have Fred Van Vliet, who was undrafted.
Yes. Yes.
Undrafted. Let's talk about that. I think that's the biggest thing. Fred Van Vliet was undrafted. Nobody knew
Mm-hmm.
who he was.
Yeah.
They pair him with they trade for Kawhi. I mean, no Kawhi. Yeah, they trade for Kawhi. He
Yeah.
leaves the Spurs, comes to the Toronto Raptors. They pair him next to each other, and that team explodes. It becomes a whole different team under Nick
Yeah.
Nurse's leadership.
Yes.
Completely a different team. Fred Van Vliet becomes a different player. Now he looks
Yes.
like he could be the face of the franchise,
Yeah.
or a close second. And
Yeah.
now he's going to be paid what $100-something million in Houston
120 something like that for 3 years. 40 million a
from
year.
undrafted to
Mm-hmm.
120 million.
Yeah. And Nurse gets
Maximizing potential.
zero credit.
Zero credit for that.
Yeah.
And then Scotty Barnes, I mean, like I never seen him as a true like a scoring guy. I've always seen him as a high defensive guy. So like you already know what you're pretty much going to get out
Yeah.
of Scotty, in my opinion. So like, I mean, like even with what he was able to accomplish, I mean, I feel like the big problem we have here in Toronto was not Nick Nurse, but it's
Fit.
more so front office and fit.
Yes.
Because they're forcing
The
something
credit went to the
doesn't
wrong
work.
person.
Truly,
Yeah.
everybody was like Masai Ujiri. No, it should have been Nick Nurse.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And like defensively, like I said, they have all the tools defensively to defend
Yeah.
very well. I mean, they had Fred Van Vliet, they had Scotty Barnes, who, like I said, I've always thought of him more as a defender than anything.
Yeah.
Pascal Siakam, who's long. He's created this game. I think we talked about this probably not recently. I think it might have been a year ago or whatever, when we talked about how Toronto Raptors is built. How it's like they're so long, they're so tall. All of them are like 6'8", 6'7", 6'6" at the shortest probably. And they all defend very well, and they just kind of just make it very tough on teams because no other team has that kind of height, built like 1 through 5, and then 1 through 12 all the way down. So it's like crazy. I think they even had Corey Joseph at one point.
Yeah.
Maximized him.
I mean, they literally had the worst starting 2 guard in the league the last year, Gary Trent. Yeah. Gary Trent was their 2 guard. Okay. What?
I'm telling you, I just saw him like who, but no, Nick Nurse deserves his flower. He's one of those coaches that needs to be respected more.
Yes,
because that team would not be what it is without Nick Nurse, and we're going to see that this year.
Yeah, I expect them to fall off a cliff this year. Honestly, no Fred VanVleet, not touching 40 wins, maybe 35. 35. I'll say 35. 32, 33.
Yeah, because they keep trying to trade Pascal Siakam away, and I don't know why.
Yeah. Already ready to kick it to the next team? Or you got something else to say?
No, let's go.
All right, the next team up that we're going to talk about last year's team talent is the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns got offensive talent of 100. I mean, when you have KD, Devin Booker, CP3, DeAndre Ayton, Cameron Artis-Payne, it's pretty easy to walk your way into 100 there. Defensively, talent-wise, I gave them an 80. They still did have Josh Okogie. CP3 may not be like the world-class on-the-default defender he used to be, but he's still ridiculously smart defensively. And then you add on to they had some long wings I can't think of off the top of my head off the bench. So then we go into the head coach. The head coach now is Frank Vogel, who gets a 60 offensively and the 97 defensively. This is 60 offensively. Oh, Jason, why would you give him a 60 offensively? Well, when he was coaching the Lakers, the third best scorer was Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma's averaged like 11 a game. Okay, Kyle Kuzma went from pre-Frank Vogel 16 to 18 a game, post-Frank Vogel 19 a game. So, that's how bad Frank Vogel is. Frank Vogel is a terrible offensive coach. Only reason why they won that ring was because LeBron James is LeBron James, and that is an offense in its own self. Okay.
True.
So, that's the only reason why they looked, semi-okay offensively. But, this guy is really terrible offensively. But defensively, he's very good. they understand. He understands switchability. He understands schemes. He understands versatility. He understands how to break down other teams' matchups. He understands X and O's. He understands where to place things. He's very good. AD was super switchable with Frank Vogel, and that was the best defensive AD we've seen with the Lakers. So they were just really tough defensively, and they had Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, and they were really edgy and really tough. So he's a very good defensive coach. So what do you think about that, Chris? Talking about those two things.
Yeah. So offensively, I think he's terrible. I think that
Yeah.
truly he couldn't teach offense if it's to save his life.
Yes.
It's just he really got carried off of talent offensively. LeBron James, Anthony Davis. You know what you're going to get, especially when Anthony
Yeah.
Davis was playing at that level then, and I would like
Yeah.
to see him go back to that level, but he was playing at a high level then.
Mhm.
So I don't think we should talk too much about offense, but defensively, that's where he truly shined. I think they
Sure.
had the number one defense that
I
year.
think
Like
so
it was
too.
something
Yeah.
crazy. Like to get everybody to play defense. They were trapping everything. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Getting so many stops. Caruso was being used to the best of his abilities.
Yeah.
Because he's a
Good.
great defensively.
Yeah.
JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard was giving Jokic the business.
Yeah. Sure.
Like
Yeah.
it was crazy. And then it was so many different defensive schemes, so many switches, switching
Yeah.
everything, really maximizing the talent defensively. So I would give him high praise for his defense, but his offense, I would give him nothing because he's not good offensively at all.
No.
But defensively, he's a great coach.
Yeah. Couldn't agree with you more, man. Are you ready to kick it to the next one?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, the Portland Trailblazers, team talent-wise, I gave them 88 last year. Defensively, I gave them 68. 88 is pretty obvious. Dame Lillard, Anthony Simmons, Jeremy Grant, Joseph Nurkic, right? Shaden Sharp. They had some talent there. Defensively, though, you got Josh Hart, Matisse Thybulle, and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they get 68 defensively. Chauncey Billups, though, offensively, at 89. This guy did a really good job of using Dame the way he did, pairing him with Anthony Simmons, who Anthony Simmons was like, okay, if there was no Damian Lillard and there was no Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simmons would be a point guard, right? Like he's a modern point guard. So to get Chauncey to get both of those guys working well together, was extremely impressive. Jeremy Grant had a really great year underneath Chauncey Billups. Jeremy Grant averaged 23 a game. He was doing really well. You know what I mean? And then you add defensively, he gets a 92 because man, schematically were they good. They did a great job of stopping corner threes. It was everybody's putting in 100% effort. It was really special to watch. They moved so well. They switched so well. They understood matchups. They understood the way the other team's going to try to attack them. It was special coaching. They just don't have talent defensively, and it's sad. But Chauncey Billups, the record of the Portland Trailblazers does not match the coach at all. This guy needs to be the guy there for the next 5 years. I really hope that they don't get caught up in trying to get in a new coach because no Dame. So, yeah, what do you think about that, Chris?
Oh yeah, Chauncey Billups is definitely. I think that the talent, did not quite match. The coach per se
Yeah.
because, but offensively they were great. You know what I mean? You have Dame, you have Anthony Simons, you got Jeremy Grant. For Anthony Simons to take such
Yeah.
a leap, he was making leaps like years prior, but for now, he's
True.
looking great right now, and that's something that can be attributed to
Yeah.
coaching. Dame's gonna be Dame. Jeremy Grant, the offensive schemes they're able to run and things like that. And everything looks great, offensively. Defensively, Chauncey Billups came from one of the best defensive teams in NBA
True.
history.
Yep.
So
Yes.
it's just that he just didn't have anybody who he could scheme, who could create a scheme
Yeah.
with, but he still was able to make something happen out of what he had.
Yes.
They had Josh Hart for a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's when the defense was the best, and then they traded away
Yeah.
Josh Hart. He was like, now what do I have? And he
It
still
was
was able
Matisse
to
Thybulle,
create.
but he can't shoot. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's he's like, what do I have now?
Yeah.
So he still was able to maximize them defensively as well. To get, I think that once Dame leaves, he will really truly be able to take the full reins of the Portland Trailblazers completely and kind of be able to maybe maneuver a little bit. Maybe
Yeah.
the GMs can kind of get some defensive talent back, he can make that team better, a lot better than what it is and what it
Somebody that
has been.
could be good, a good defender in the future is Scoot Henderson. Like
That's
him
true.
with Chauncey, because Scoot's like Jaw, where he does take possessions off and he was a little more raw defensively, but a great talent like that going to Chauncey, that could be
Yeah,
he could be a really good guard defender in the future. Yeah.
that's true. That's true. That's true. And who better to learn from? So
Yeah,
I agree
Chauncey.
with
Yeah.
right. Then Chauncey.
Yeah. All right, you ready to kick it to the next team?
Mm-hmm.
All right, the next one's going to be the team that shocked the world last year, the Sacramento Kings. Team talent wise, offensively, give them a 93. I mean, De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, Domantas Sabonis, did Kevin Herter, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, Trey, that really long 6'10" power forward that they bring off the bench that shoots. Trey Lyles.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Tons of bench talent, Davion Mitchell. And then defensively, you know what I mean? I gave them an 80 and 84 defensively because, I mean, Domantas Sabonis is not naturally a good defender. De'Aaron Fox is not known to be a good defender. Kevin Herter is a little tight, you know what I mean? Malik Monk's not a good defender. Davion Mitchell is, but Harrison Barnes isn't athletically good enough defender yet. But Keegan Murray has a good body to become a good defender, but he was a rookie, right? Trey
Right.
Lyles can't guard the wing, right? So, not a ton of talent there defensively. Mike Brown, though, gets a 98 offensively and a 99 defensively. Mike Brown is the story that everybody wants Frank Vogel to be. That guy that used to be a phenomenal defensive coach, but then hits the offensive side of it, too. I mean, he gets a 98 offensively because the Golden State Warriors off-ball movement offense, baby, that was basically the principles. It's a little different, but it's the same principles of movement, passing, believing the value of the pass, believing the movement, off-ball movement. The dribble handoffs with Kevin Herter and Domantas Sabonis that nobody wanted to see. The way that Malik Monk was stepped up in the playoffs and De'Aaron Fox, stepping up, being more consistent offensively, choosing when to shoot, much more better shot selection, the best way I could put it. You know what I mean? And Domantas Sabonis used and the way he used the shooting and how dominant they were at the 3-point line and the spacing of it all was just poetry in motion. And Mike Brown gets a 99 because if I said how good was the Sacramento Kings defense last year, you say like a 92, 93, and I said the talent was an 84. Okay, well, it makes sense why Mike Brown was Mike Brown. I mean, did you see
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox running around, chasing around Steph Curry? He would have never done that any year previously in his career because he wasn't known as a defender. But now De'Aaron Fox is a good defender. You know what I mean? Like, the best version of Malik Monk defensively was him. The best version of Kevin Herter defensively was him. I've never seen Domantas Sabonis move like that in my life. I don't know. I think they trimmed some pounds off of him, like maybe 5 to 10 pounds, and I think it really added to his feet being able to move better. You know what I mean? Keegan Murray was probably the best defender he could have been year one because he was really valuable as their main wing defender. You know what I mean? So it was special, what Mike Brown did last year, and they were so much fun to watch. So what do you think, Chris?
Yeah. Yeah. He's being under. He really just used that Golden State offense. To the
Yes.
best of his and it's so crazy that
The
he just
remix.
took the
The Golden
pieces.
State
Yeah,
Warriors
right.
offense remix.
He
That's
remixed
what
it.
it is.
He looked at his
Yeah.
personnel and he was like, okay, you fit here,
Yeah.
you do this, you do that, and it
Mhm.
worked. It's just crazy that offense is so malleable. I guess you can say that's a good word.
Good word.
Malleable.
Yeah.
It's so malleable because it's like you could just fit anybody in there and then it
Yeah.
absolutely works. And that's great coaching to be able to get some people to buy into an offense that beats everybody that they have
Yes.
probably lost to before. You're like,
Yeah.
we're gonna run the exact same thing you're running.
Golden State was like, this fucking sucks. I never. Oh,
I'm just gonna run the same thing that you're running, and you can't do anything to stop it because I can't
Yeah.
stop it when you run it.
That's so
basically
true.
What happened. That's basically what
Oh my
happened.
gosh. Yeah.
So offensively, he gets high marks from me because he was able to take their offense. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because he wasn't just under Kerr. He was also under Pop at one point. Take those two
Yeah.
brilliant minds coaching and put them in like take and absorb as much knowledge
Yeah.
from them both as possible and create an offense that fit his team perfectly.
Yes.
Like to get and they bought into it
Yeah.
and they ran it like nobody else.
Yeah.
And defensively, to get those guys who probably wouldn't have defended before, who was De'Aaron Fox was more so like a one-way player. He would
Yes.
only score a lot. He was known as being
Yes.
really quick,
Yeah.
but his nickname was Swiper. So I'm like, why are you not
Yeah.
getting steals? But
Now he is.
now he is. Now he is.
Yeah.
Now he is. It
Yeah.
definitely has maximized the potential of every
Yeah.
player on that court. Kevin Herter in Atlanta wasn't who he was defensively, but Mike Brown has maximized the potential of every player on that court defensively to the and they have became the best version of themselves defensively.
Yeah.
Defensively, not only do they fit into the system offensively, but now they even
Mhm.
fit into the system defensively. And this is the
Yeah.
coach for the Sacramento Kings. I can't believe I'm saying this. For the foreseeable future, you should not get rid of him ever
Nope.
because you have done some dumb things in the past, Sacramento. I have not forgotten what you did to Boogie.
No, yeah. I mean, this has got to be one of your favorite teams. Honestly, he took De'Aaron Fox from an okay guy to like, man, is De'Aaron Fox better than Trae Young and John Moran? Right? Like I honestly think De'Aaron Fox now is better than Trae Young and John Moran. It's all because of the defensive side of the basketball.
Mm.
And we know he can
I
drop
can see
28 and 8 offensively, right? So really efficiently. So, man, he made De'Aaron Fox from a star to a superstar in 1 year. Incredible. All right, you ready to kick to the next team?
Let's go.
All right, from one great coaching talent to the godfather of coaching talents, the San Antonio Spurs is who we have next. Team talent-wise, I gave him a 73. Defensively, I gave team talent-wise a 72. Nothing crazy here. We all know they suck. Talent-wise,
Yeah.
Greg Popovich gets 100 offensively, 100 defensively. Wow, who knew that was coming? This team would have 10 wins a season for the past 5 years. So it was for Greg Popovich. They use off-ball movement so well. Whatever talent they do have, they use Keldon Johnson, Mikhail Branham, Devin Vasil, you know what I mean? All this off-ball movement that's really boring to watch, but they play great defense, team defense, schemes, all that type of stuff. I don't need to talk too much about why Greg Popovich is a phenomenal coach. I feel like everybody understands this. So, Chris, what do you got to say?
I feel like I shouldn't talk about it either. I mean, I can go back years and talk about my favorite memory of the Spurs, even though it's a terrible memory and I don't like remembering it, but it was so beautiful to watch was when they played the Cavs.
Yeah.
And the way they moved the ball.
Yes. Ball movement, baby.
Every shot was an open shot.
Mm-hmm. Great shot
Destroyed
selection.
us. We got great shot selection. But even now, I mean, like, if it wasn't for Pop, based on the talent that they have not had a true definitive star.
Since DeJounte Murray?
Yeah. DeJounte Murray.
Yeah, not a star. Yeah. A borderline all-star. Yeah.
Borderline. But now they have Wemby.
Yeah.
So, like, they finally have a star, and you put him next to Pop. Perfect. They haven't had a star in a long time. So, for them to still be... I mean, they're not playoff contenders anymore. Not by a long shot. But at least they're still hanging in there.
Yeah.
They're not losing every game. So, that's nothing but a testament to Coach Pop and how he's able to maximize the limited talent that he has to be good enough to win a game.
Agreed. All right, you ready to kick in the next one?
Let's go.
All right, next team up is the Toronto Raptors. Sadly, their coach is no longer there, so we can't talk about the coach. But the team talent-wise for the Toronto Raptors, gave him offensively a 77 last year. Pascal, Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Suggs, the new beast, Scotty Barnes, Yoga Pearl, nothing crazy. Defensive talent-wise, I gave him an 85, though. Pascal, Scotty, OG. Christian Koloko was becoming that, but Jakob Pearl's a really bad defender. Fred VanVleet's just never going to be a good defender due to the athletic restraints. Gary Trent can't really defend, so that's why they're averaging out 85. Their new coach has never coached before, so we can't really talk about him. Darko Rajovic, tough name. So you want to go ahead and kick it to the next team, or do you have anything you want to say on the Toronto?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So the next team up is the Utah Jazz, a really good surprise team.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive talent, team talent wise, they gave him a 76, and defensively talent wise, they gave him a 73. You know, Laurie, all their bench players, Colin Sexton. There's so many guys on that team that are just pretty good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And their head coach is Will Hardy. I gave this offense a 96, defense an 82. I mean, the way that they had such a great passing system, the ball moved so well, everybody was unselfish. The maximization of Laurie Markkinen before nobody really even believed Laurie could ever be that right, and
True.
he
Yeah.
did a hell of a job year one. This guy, they hit a gold mine with this guy as a new head coach. He's so young too, so he's going to be their future head coach for the rest of the time. And he gets an 82 defensively because they have that one kid from Auburn that I can't think of his name right now. They drafted, but they really do a great job of forcing everything to him. The maximization of the talent there, they play much better defense than what the talent is. So that's why I'm getting an 82. So what do you think about that, Chris?
Yeah, without a doubt. Utah definitely surprised me. That's why
Yes.
I'll give him his flowers for sure.
Yeah.
Because after losing Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Joe Ingles,
Yeah.
I was like, this team is gonna suck. They're gonna lose every game. I mean, like they don't
Yeah.
have anybody, and I was shut up very quickly because as soon as
Yeah.
they played a game and you see that score and you're like, man, like Laurie's doing this.
Yes. Nobody
Jordan
believed in
Clarkson
it
is
first,
what?
too. Yeah.
No, nobody
Yeah.
believed. Jordan Clarkson is doing what?
Yeah. True.
What I mean, like offensively, like he's a young coach, so he's gonna be with them for a long time, and they should not get rid of him
No.
anytime soon. Like
No.
don't let the fact that you're not winning, that you haven't been to the playoffs, or if you go to the playoffs and you lose, don't let that deter you because
No.
this is the guy that you want continuously coaching this team. You want them to grow along with this coach
Yeah.
because he is doing such a phenomenal job with them. Year one
Mhm.
for them to even pull out a 1 seed with no star is
Yeah.
ridiculous. I mean, they didn't finish with a 1 seed, but they had a 1 seed at some point in the season. I remember that because I was
Yeah.
shocked.
Yeah.
They went on like a crazy win streak right
Mhm.
after they did all the trades. They were
Yeah.
like, and they were a 1 seed to even pull
Yeah.
out a 1 seed. I mean, that's huge. I'm excited to see what they look like next year.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, you have what you have defensively. I mean, you have some
True.
great personnel defensively. I think Colin Sexton is a pretty decent defender. I
Yeah.
remember watching him in college and high school.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I will give him good marks on defense and offense as well. But I just think that this is the guy to stay with the Utah Jazz, and I can't wait to watch the Utah Jazz next year
Yeah. Me
because
too.
of what he was able to do this year.
Alrighty, you ready to kick it to the last team we're going to talk about today?
Sure.
All right, a team that's perennially had a bad coach. I think they've had the longest streak of having not at least an above average coach in the NBA. Washington Wizards, team talent wise, offensively they gave him an 83. Defensively they gave him a 73. Bradley Beal, Kyle Kuzma, Danny Adavia. Man, that team's tough to
Yeah.
think about. It makes my brain think about wanting to just change the channel. Defensively,
Yeah.
they gave us 73. Not a ton of talent there. Wes Unseld, their head coach, who most people probably don't know is a head coach. Wes Unseld's grandson or son gets offensively gets 79 and defensively 72. It does nothing special. There's nothing unique going on here. It's just average pick and roll running. Bradley Beal's also gone downhill since he's become the coach, so I'm not going to give him a ton of credit. He went from 28, 30 a game. Wes Unseld gets there 25, 22. So, here we are. 73 defensively because he does nothing special. This is a good example of a very below average NBA head coach. I'm very surprised that they didn't fire him and hire Mike Budenholzer, but that's just me. What do you think about that, Chris?
Yeah, they had Kristaps Porzingis, Bradley
Yeah,
Beal,
that's right.
Kyle
Mm-hmm.
Kuzma,
Forgot about
Danny
him for a second.
Adavia.
Yeah.
They had a decent squad, and they
Yeah.
just did not. They were not able to do anything. Absolutely
Yes.
nothing. No wonder Bradley Beal wanted out.
Yeah, true.
It's the coaching.
Yeah.
It's the coaching. It's the coaching. You get tired of losing. I mean, I will say this. I mean, from Kyle Kuzma leaving the Lakers and I'm wanting him off the Lakers to him going to the Washington Wizards and being a better player.
Yeah.
I see the correlation, but I don't think I can attribute that to the coach because I haven't seen anything since. I haven't seen any true growth besides that one instance.
And it's more Frank
got there
Vogel's
and
fault than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I can't really accredit him with that, but I mean, it's nothing to. It's like they run basic offense, pick and
Yeah.
roll. It's nothing. It's really nothing that you can really say too much about defensively. I mean, they're functional. So
Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't fire him. But
Alrighty.
Mike Budenholzer
Well,
does have
there's
that.
nobody on the list. So, is there anything else you want to say, Chris?
Oh.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you guys for listening to the podcast. This is going to be the end of the podcast. Next week, we're going to have something new and intriguing, fun for you guys. Everything that we're going to talk about this offseason is going to be regular season type stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. You guys are going to definitely want to tune in and check that out. So I'm Jason Collins.
Yeah, Chris Muhammad.
And we're the Basketball Addicts.
Peace.
Ouch.